All right, quick update on this. I've got the roof polished out. I've got the rear roof or rear glass frame here polished out. Everything's pretty much done. Just installing this roof beam right now. I've got this rivet in on this side. I've just gotten done with it, but I'll show you what I did. I've got strip caulk back behind here to seal this to the body so no water can get into this hole. So once I pull it down with the rivet, that strip caulk will flatten out and seal this to the body. But I've also got to seal the rivet to the body. So what I did was I put some black silicone around the hole, and as I pulled the rivet, it forced the silicone out around it. So I took a Q-tip and just wiped that off around it. So the rivet is sealed to this, and the roof beam is sealed to the body. Now I don't know if this is waterproof or not. What I probably need to do is fill this hole in with black silicone just to seal it in case water can get in through here. I don't think that's a perfect seal, so the water may be able to get in through the actual stem of the rivet. So I need to fill this in now with the silicone, and I'll just wipe it off flush. I don't want any water getting down into the car. So I've tried to seal it as best I can. I'm going to fill the cavity up now with silicone. I wasn't sure where that would break off. I was barely able to get my riveter on there. I don't have I guess you call it a die or whatever, these attachments for the tip. I don't have one that will fit this on my other hand riveter. This stem is a little bit too short, so I had to take the actual tip off and use it without the tip. Just put it straight into the end of the riveter, but it did work, just barely. I'm gonna go ahead and get the other side in, and this roof beam will be completely done. Then I'll come back and I'll fill in both these heads of these rivets. All right, here it is before the rivet goes in. Got the strip caulk back behind it. This is actually gonna come down here. Then the rivet will seal to the roof beam, and the roof beam will be sealed to that. Then I'll fill in the head with silicone. That'll look like this side over here. I just filled it in. And I got all this tape on the car just because I didn't want the riveter to, as soon as the stem broke out of it, I didn't want the riveter to hit the car. That's kind of a problem on metal rivets sometimes, but this plastic just kind of snapped and didn't really recoil that much. We'll go ahead and get it in. All right, this one's in. I didn't bother taping up this side of the car just because I didn't really need it. Over there, I didn't know how it was going to react. So I'm just going to clean all the silicone off of here around the rivet. And once it's all off, I'll fill the head in now. And this back here, I could just take that and just cut it off. That strip caulk doesn't harden, so I can just kind of pull it out of there. We'll go ahead and fill the head of that, and this will be done. Okay, I've gone around the bumper with metal tape. I've held the cracks together and get it nice and flush and everything realigned, and I've got that tape applied to the outside to hold it stiff to where it can't move, and open the cracks back up. I'm going to go in here and start taking out all the whatever it is, Gorilla Glue, epoxy, or whatever was used in here along this crack, all down in here, all through here, mostly with the file belt, just cleaning all this up, and then I'll probably sandblast a lot bigger area so I can put some panel bond in there. This tape will keep the outside where it needs to be, and I can focus on getting the inside structural repair done, and then I can come back and dish all this out and repair it cosmetically on the outside. Okay, now that the back side's done, I've got the foam absorber that actually comes over to here because this is where the bumper was damaged. Everything got cut off in here when it was repaired last time. So the foam comes over into here somewhere. And I had to cut about 2 or 3 inches off of it so that it didn't overlap all the glue I had in here and make the bumper rebar. Under here a really tight fit, so the rebar comes over to here and was cut off where it was broken. Still need that though so I can mount it to the car, and the foam stops right in here now since there's so much glue behind it. So I'm just going through with a stripe wheel, taking all this black tape out of here, this decal, and then I'm going to be filling these in later on. I'm probably going to bond in. I may have to take some of this tab right here off I want to try to leave that mounting point for the bracket that slides on the car, but I may have to trim this back just enough to bond. I'm probably going to bond a strip of aluminum over this, and then on the outside I can just turn the bumper over horizontal on the side, just fill this in with flowable 5887, and then I can just block sand it flat like that, but I have to do them individually, so I can turn this one up horizontal, let it level itself, then harden, flip it over and do the other side. But that's the plan for now. I'm going to go ahead and get all this tape out, then I'll start V-grooving all this out all around here, and take all the filler out that's in there. It's got Bondo in it, and then I'll start filling in the cracks with 5887. Okay, all the tape is out. This is where there's some rivets into a plate, so I've got panel bond that's coming through those holes from the back side that I've got to dish these out, fill these in also. I'm going to focus on this main crack through here though. And you can see there's body filler, and in certain places I've been able to pop it off. It was actually put over, there were 4 rivets in this area over a plate that was behind this, and then the body filler was put on unsanded paint. So it really couldn't have been done any worse. None of the other paint was sanded either, so it was just filled and then painted. All like right here where it's chipped off, you can see where the original paint's underneath it. Just glossy as it can be. So I'm gonna have to strip the entire thing, but I'm gonna focus on getting everything out of this area, probably about 3 or 4 inches wide, all the way through here and around the top, just to get back into the original, get rid of all the filler that's there. And I'm gonna dish this out even further and try to open the crack up and expose the panel bond behind it so that I can tie the 2 adhesives together. But I gotta do this right here and just open it up and go deeper with it all the way through. I'm gonna be really careful in here. I'm gonna have to come back and probably use a Dremel tool to radius this back out, and after I block it, make the plug fit in there. And I'll have to test fit one of those. I've already got them painted, so I'll pull those back out and test fit. The rest of it I think I can get to with a DA, and mostly right down here in this groove is going to be the tricky part. I may just have to run some 80 grit down in there by hand and then finish it off with 180 to get ready to prime. But for right now I'm going to focus on getting all the repairs done, then I'll come back and I'll show you filling these in once I decide what I'm going to do there. Okay, I'm ready for the first layer of filler. I took this down to the panel bond so that I know that I've got everything out of the crack that was put in it before. And since the filler is fairly runny and it kind of self-levels and will run for a few minutes, I'm going to do this top horizontal surface down to the side. I'll actually put some tape along here and dam this up, and put some tape along going up this direction to keep it from flowing down the bumper. And same thing here. I'm going to tape this off. That'll fill some of this right here, but it won't allow it to come on down. Then once that sets up, I'll flip it over and I'll make another horizontal surface with it turned over 90 degrees this way. I'll be able to do this part here and around here. And all these are just going to be shallow cracks that I need to take out, so I can just wipe that at the same time. But this is going to be really thick, and it's going to tend to run. If I try to go all the way down this way, it'll just run off the bumper. I won't be able to build it. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. I've got this in 80 grit. I've got this dished out. You can see it's kind of tapered down into the crack. And it's rounded off, and all this is in 80 grit. You're supposed to feather it with 180 where you're going to have the feather edge and the filler, but I'm going to put another layer over this anyway as a finish layer, so I'll bring this out on 180 at that point and run my filler over to there and feather it into that. So right now I'm just leaving it in 80. I'm going to get the 5887. This is 3M Easy Sand 5887. And I'm just going to, after I tape this up, create a dam on each side of the bumper. I'm just going to fill this in until I've got it full and add a little extra so I can level it off with a spreader. And I'll end up having to put more later, but that'll give me the initial fill. And I'll flip it over once it sets up, and I'll start on this other stuff. Alright, just going to get a light coat of 3M 5907 adhesion promoter. That's what they recommend for their adhesives. And just a light coat. You put too much and it'll have the opposite effect. This is after you've sanded it and blown it off really well. That's really all you need right there. That's gonna get a 10-minute flash and then I'll put the glue in it. I'm just filling in this trough that I made, and I'm gonna just fill up the groove here that had the crack in it. Just let it flow out, and then I'll put a layer across the top of it. Same thing over here, and then I'll just add some to the top and tool it out flat. All right, quick update on the bumper. I've probably got 10 hours in this thing so far. I've sandblasted everywhere that I can't really sand and gotten all the paint off of the last paint job that was on it that wasn't sanded. Everything else appears to be stuck pretty well, so like all this almost looks like it was like an original paint job and then another repaint at the factory maybe, because it's the exact same pattern of everything underneath it. I have seen that before, but I've got everything either an 80 grit or sandblasted. It's not been repaired, so this groove through here, this about 1 inch wide groove, is just complicating things. It's going to make it take about 3 times longer to fix this than it normally would, since I'm having hand sand in here. I'm actually using a piece of aluminum here that I've got with 80 and 180 wrapped around it. It's almost a perfect fit down in this channel, so just going back and forth in here and shaping it that way. I just got one final layer of 5887 on it. It's curing up right now, so I'll get this all sanded, blocked out. If there's any low spots left, I'll put a little bit here and there, but while that's setting up, I'm gonna go ahead and prep to fill these holes in. I'm waiting on another tube of glue to come in since it just ran out. I knew I'd be out before I got to that point anyway, so I went ahead and ordered it. I'm gonna have to decide what I want to do. I've got some aluminum strips here, which I think I'm gonna use. You got 2 widths. So what I'll do is I'll just probably pick whichever one fits better, and I'll return the other one, but wouldn't bought 2 since I didn't know how wide it would need to be. Probably gonna go with this wider one. Panel bond it to the back side back here. So we'll have this area and all along these edges here, and then part of this. I may end up trimming this part of the tab off right in here to be able to glue it to that area there, but I don't know if I'll need it. I can just fill in with glue here, have it bonded everywhere else, and then I can grind the back side before I put it on and coat it with panel bond, and then I can sandblast the outside of the panel bond and put this 5887 in this channel. But I'll have to bring the bumper up level on the side and just float it in, let it set up, and flip it over and do the other side, because it's going to run. I'm going to have so much in that groove there, it's just going to run off. So I'll show you that when I get to it. Okay, it looks like this 1 inch flat stock is going to be the best fit. I can get it through there, and it won't quite open up, so I know I'll have a little bit of overlap. And that way I can have an overlap of panel bond right along these edges, and I can just fill this in, this channel with the panel bond when I bond it in. But it's really going to be holding out here and out here for the most part, and this will just seal it. The reason I was talking about panel bonding the outside, so once it's back there, once it's behind there, the 5887 is not designed to go over metal. I could prime it. I could sandblast all this once it's in and then epoxy prime this area. It's made for going over fully cured 2K primers, but if I go ahead and coat it, since I'll have the panel bond out, put a thin coating of panel bond over that aluminum before I bond it in, or even after, there's going to be some squeeze out anyway, but I just need to get a layer of it on there and then rough that up with the sandblaster. Then the 5887 should stick to the to the panel bond. I'm gonna run a test to make sure that'll work. But they're both epoxies and shouldn't be a problem. All right, here's the plan. I've got this 1-inch strip. I've got all this ground off to the bare plastic all the way around with the file belt, and a little bit right in here where I can just attach this part where this tab is in the way. That's going to be bonded to this with a 1-inch overlap on each end. And I'll be able to bond, once I bond the end and clamp it, I'll be able to fill this small little gap on either side. That's probably just a few thousandths on either side, just like that on the top and bottom. I'll fill it in with panel bond. But before I put it on, I'm going to grind this side completely smooth here. It'll be a nice fresh surface, and I'm going to wipe panel bond on the entire face of it, so that through this hole will be panel bond that I can sandblast and just rough up. And so I'm not putting that 5887 directly on metal. So I'm going to get this ground on this whole face here and all around the two sides, and the back side here can stay just smooth. I don't need to grind that. That'll be facing out here. So there's really no need to grind all this. I'm gonna get this prepped and get some clamps ready to bond it in. Okay, it's clamped in, coated on the outside. This will get all sandblasted, so it'll rough the texture up, rough up the surface. Give me a nice surface for it to bond to. I got to put the adhesive on it. This type right here, the 5887. Got it bonded in the back and fully encapsulated. It's gonna have to sit for at least 4 hours being clamped, but I'll let it sit overnight. I'll do the other side when I get the rest of the glue in. I've ordered some more of this and panel bond. I ran out of panel bond, so I've got that prepped, but I don't have enough to do it yet. So when both of those come in, I'll be able to finish all of this. I just got the hood polished out, and I went ahead and masked off the trim along the roof rail here back to this cap. I got the cap installed and painted the cap with it on here, so I taped it here, painted all the way forward down to here with the door open. Same thing over here, just letting it dry right now so the seals aren't contacting it, at least too much. So all the roof, sunroof, all down through here, and the trunk is buffed out. Doors are done, so now I've got the fenders left to do on the front end, and it'll be complete. I still need to do the back of the trunk lid, the spoiler, and the quarter panel. So that'll leave me just basically the back of the car after I get the fenders done. I'm about to start on this one right here, and this way any polishing compound that might sling will go this direction. And if I start over here, that sling will go this way and we'll potentially get on this new paint that I've put on. I don't think it would damage it, but just to be safe, I'm going to start on this side and work my way over there. By that time, this paint will be nice and cured. Okay, finally ready to prime this bumper. I've lost track of the number of hours I've put on this thing, probably at least a dozen. Got the crack repaired and both marker light holes filled in. Get you set up here for the primer. Just a second. I'm gonna get this front lip done separately. I need to go ahead and get this stuff on this rear bumper so it can be hardening up. Alright, that'll get at least 2 more coats. And I'll see what it looks like after that. Okay, finally ready to paint these last 2 parts. I had to go back and spot prime some cut throughs, so what I did was I added, since I've only got this gray primer, I added sealer, some dark gray sealer to it just to tint it enough to see where I've added primer, so I don't put more than I have to. I can see where I put it, and when I go to block it, I know where to block. So I've got all of this ready to go. These areas in here, some minor cut throughs in here, but I'm going to seal this, so not every tiny one like in here has to be covered. I just went through too deep in the other places where I added this extra primer. So still got to do a wipe down, get this sand and sludge off, clean it up. Here's the patches for the lights and all the repair work in here. There was a ton of filler on the outside that I had to block. It's not real thick, but I had to block in here by hand with just a piece of aluminum that I've got to cut that groove back into all the filler I had in it. And the plugs are already painted. I did those earlier with some trim parts, so those are ready to go. Similar issues here. Had a lot of damage to this front lip. Huge crack through the center, one on each end. It wasn't quite as bad, but I ended up having to fill those 2 anyway. And then a lot of minor cracking on the front where it had flexed over the years and material's just getting old. Same thing with the spot prime. Tinted that so I could see where I put it. Had to put a little bit more filler in here. So I had to reprime that side. Need to get these wiped down and get some sealer mixed up. I'll be back to spray it. All right, this is Value Shade 2 sealer with flex additive.
All right, this will get about 20 minutes for base coat. Okay, one more coat of base on each piece, and then I'll wait about 30 minutes and clear it all. All right, I'm about to go recoat the front lip and come back to this in a few minutes. Okay, all done. Been drying about 15 minutes. Turned out pretty slick. I'll have to denib it as usual, but nothing too bad. Here's a lip. See if I can get the reflection in the side. There we go. Ended up wet sanding the first coat of base to get some trash out of it, and that's always beneficial for the final product. It's going to smooth out the rest of the base and the clear will be even slicker. So I just went ahead and scuffed over most of the first coat of the base, and then put a second coat and kind of a drop coat after that, since I thinned out the first coat. This piece he's going to put on himself, and I'm going to get this mounted to the car in the next day or two. Definitely going to wait at least a day before I try to get it off the rack and put it on the car, but it should be good to go tomorrow onto the car, but we'll see if I get the time to do it or not. It just slips on some brackets in the front and bolts on from the rear through these holes just with nuts onto the frame rails. So pretty simple install. I'll be back when I have it on. Here's a quick look at it completely assembled. The owner's on the way to get it today. And I want to get it outside and something happened to it. I'm trying to keep it clean. And he'll be installing that front lip that I painted later on. So he's going to take that and the actually the old windshield too. It's still good, so gonna keep it. I'm not going to open this this large garage door here. Just going to leave it shut till he gets here. Try to show you everything I can with the door down. He's got the grills and everything he's going to put in later too. Got a repair on the Mercedes to do. It's coming in a couple weeks, so I'll get going on that one on the next one. See you then.